Aren't you just fascinated by the human mind? 100 billion neurons, trillions of connections, all trying to figure out what's going on around us at any one time. Well, when it comes to learning, something really interesting occurs in our brain with regards to senses. Oftentimes we just concentrate on the content and we think the delivery of the content, how are we going to present it in a certain way? Is it colourful enough? Does it make us engage better? But more than all of that, the environment around us isn't static. It's a dynamic thing that happens to our senses while we're sitting trying to learn something, whether it's the quiet of a library or the hustle and bustle of an active workshop. All these things around us still impact our senses and therefore impact our learning. The context is incredibly important. And in this video, we're going to cover something that's very interesting from the Penn principles, which is context dependent and context independent learning. And then we're going to go deeper in that and ask a few questions about what's something else we can do as trainers, instructors, to improve how the context of where someone learns is reflected better in their performance outcomes and how they learn the subject and then go on to perform the job later. So again, join me and we're going to have a good look at exactly what this means. So Penn principle number 5 talks about leveraging the context according to the outcomes that we want. Psychologically speaking, individuals who learn in a single environment perform well when tested in that same environment, whereas individuals who learn in multiple environments perform well when tested in new or novel environments. In an education context, we see that students asked to prepare for an exam in the testing classroom outperform students asked to prepare for the same exam in a different classroom. What's happening in our brains? Well, the hippocampus shows enhanced activity when learned objects are in an environment as opposed to a context-free white background. The environment may be automatically encoded, bound to learned information, and then reinstated at retrieval. So this leaves us with a few questions. Firstly, are there specific environmental features that influence learning or memory more than others? If so, can these be leveraged to improve both near and far transfer? What in the environment impacts the learning more than other things? Can we leverage those things to enhance the learning? Let's break this down into 2 key factors. How do we define the learning environment? Is it physical, psychological, or both? Modern training facilities range from classrooms and workshops through to immersive areas where skills and knowledge are applied within simulated and real-type environments. Let's talk about the obvious things to start with. Just avoid extreme conditions. Things like too much heat, too cold, or the air quality. These are standard things that a trainer must be aware of in a classroom to make sure that students aren't distracted, let alone impaired, by these extreme conditions. Other environmental factors that can influence learning include things like relationships, stress, sleep, exercise, nutrition, laughter, and of course the distractions such as noise, powerful odors, and of course your other classmates. These are all things we have some semblance of influence over. But now have a think about other environmental conditions that actually impact learning from a psychological point of view. In the psychological environment, I want to run 2 things past you that have had a considerable impact on student learning: positivity and competition. Researchers have found that there are 3 dimensions to positivity that can have a positive influence on the psychological impact of an environment. They are the instructor, the content, and the context itself. The instructor must show compassion by being encouraging and understanding. Numerous articles and studies illustrate the learning benefits of being a compassionate, understanding, and encouraging instructor. From the perspective of the psychological context, these acts help to combine learning content to positive psychological messages in the brain, which in turn reduces stress and leads to better retention. A positive environment is set by the positive tone of the instructor. A positive vocal tone is recognized by the use of clear and simple phrasing, and using fewer words to communicate a message. By phrasing messages positively, you encourage learners to buy into your ideas and establish good relationships for the future. Positive tone is a credibility builder. The instructor has the power to infuse learner interest and attention through their actions. A compassionate or smiling face, a front-facing stance, and consistent gesturing are seen as positive attributes by people, thus improving the overall positivity of the environment. The second-person point of view brings the reader closer to the writer, making the reading experience more intimate and less detached. Instructional design research recommends this perspective where possible. As you can imagine, being closer to the content improves the psychological connection to the materials. Learning novel ideas and skills can be difficult. Providing easy-to-follow examples and solutions that step readers through the how-to aspects well, not only reduce stress for the learners, but increase motivation towards learning. Further improving the learning context means ensuring that learners have easy access to the environment. This applies to details like the timing of handouts, the viewable area of any demonstration, where content is located in a room, and consideration of learners with special needs. Healthy student interaction is vital for the positivity of a learning environment. Support and encouragement from other students further reinforces that positive experience that individuals take away from their learning environment. And lastly, memory cues such as signage, posters, handouts, demonstration layouts, and diagrams that are consistent with the proposed knowledge and skills outcomes rounds out the things that you can do to ensure a positive psychological learning experience. A competitive environment can be divided into inter-learner competition and intra-learner competition. A student may gain motivation through their performance within a group activity, such as a quiz, problem-solving activity, or discussion. Social approval and acceptance play an important role in the psychological context of learning. This evolutionary need can be encouraged through fair play rules when working in groups or within class discussions. Lastly, students may be motivated by the attainment of expected results. Aiming for a competent outcome and achieving it can enhance retention through the testing effect I outlined in a previous video. Intra-learning competition is when a student competes with their own aims. This can include a desire to improve each time an attempt is made with a new task, wanting to advance their existing skill levels overall, and the innate desire to master a new competency. Context dependency is exactly what it sounds like. Memory is impacted by the environment and not just the content of what's being learned. While the learner can focus on the content, things in the environment are being absorbed by the senses, even things like smells, temperature. This is known as the coincidental environmental context. Research has suggested that if learners can include the environment into the learning through activities such as introspection or reflection, then when it comes time to actually study the content, the environment has less of an impact on the outcomes. So the takeaways here are to ensure that you spend some time in your workshop talking about the environment itself and how that might or might not relate to the learning content. So we've covered how the context can both positively and negatively affect students' ability to recall information. We've covered ways in which you, the instructor, can help with context dependencies, as well as ways you can help your learners avoid negative dependencies and foster better habits within a learning setting. In the next video, we'll be focusing on student management, classroom control, hecklers and disruptive student interactions, and so on. Please subscribe to catch up with the existing free content, as well as get access to our new videos that our team are researching right now. See you next time.